From Mortal to Divine, a Cultivation Epic, Episode 5. Chen Xiaobian, following Chen Lagu's instructions, brought a shovel from home and began digging in front of the burnt tree stump. You still want to learn from me about digging graves? Dad, we've been digging for a while and haven't found anything. I'm exhausted. All right. I'm not tired. I'll keep digging. Chen Xiaobian started digging diligently when he heard his dad. He had been wanting to learn from his dad for a long time, but his dad had never agreed. After digging for a while, as Chen Lagu had predicted, a dark space appeared beneath the tree stump. Dad, there's really a hole. Take this and dig out what's inside. Chen Xiaobian immediately informed his dad of this discovery. Chen Lagu had anticipated this and didn't find it strange. He handed a large glove to Xiaobian and asked him to reach inside and retrieve what was there. Dad, please don't trick me. Are there no snakes inside? In truth, like any regular person, Chen Xiaobian was quite apprehensive about sticking his hand into an unknown dark hole. However, with his dad watching, he had no choice but to muster the courage and extend his hand inside. The black hole was located under several thick roots of the tree stump. Chen Xiaobian reluctantly reached inside and actually touched something about the size of a watermelon. Dad, what's this? It looks weird. You brat, do you understand anything? Put it on the ground. Chen Xiaobian, careful not to damage it, retrieved the item from inside and handed it to Chen Lagu, who was waiting nearby. After placing the item on the ground, Chen Xiaobian could see clearly that it was a very old hedgehog. It had been dead for many years, but its body hadn't decomposed and had turned into a mummy. Half of its quills were missing, leaving only a small portion at the tail. What looked even stranger was that the front paws of the hedgehog were holding a snow-white pearl, shining brilliantly. Dad, is this the treasure you mentioned? That's right. Step aside. I'll take care of it. Chen Lagu seemed very knowledgeable about this item. To calm Xiaobian's restlessness, he told him to watch from the side while he handled it himself. Other animals cultivate and form their core inside their bodies, but hedgehogs are unique. They carry their core in front of their chest. Hence, the saying hedgehog carries a pearl. The quills they leave behind are also valuable. As Chen Lagu cleaned up, he shared some legends about these mystical creatures. Soon, the white spherical object that the hedgehog had been holding in front of its chest was extracted, along with a pile of hedgehog quills, each measuring over 10 centimeters in length. Are we going to the market? Dad, we don't have money to buy anything at the market. All right, let's go. We'll go to the market. Chen Lagu placed these two items in a small cloth bag and called Xiaobian to accompany him to the market. We only have a few dozen yuan on us. What can we buy at the market? Who said we're going to buy things? Can't we just go and look around? As Xiaobian said, the Chen father and son were recent arrivals in Guanling village, without land and living a very frugal life. Chen Bo, Xiaobian, are you going to the market? Hop on. It's on our way. Second brother, that's great. Just as the father and son had walked less than a mile, they ran into Erzhuang, who had just come out of the village. When Erzhuang saw the Chen family, he warmly greeted them. Erzhuang, where are you headed? I brought back 2 little piglets from home. Need to buy some feed. Erzhuang happened to be going to the market to buy feed as well, so he enthusiastically invited the Chen father and son along. Despite their modest living, the Chen family was quite popular and well-liked in the village. Chen Xiaobian actually had some understanding of this. He knew that his dad intended to dig out these items, like the Baixan, to sell and make some money for their living expenses. However, shouldn't these items be sold in the city? Who would buy them at the market? But he couldn't ask such questions in front of Erzhuang, so he kept quiet and endured the bumpy ride on the tricycle to the town. Half-Miao Township, located 10 miles from Guanling village, was a bustling place that served several nearby villages. Today was a market day. so it was extremely crowded and lively. "Dad, are we just going to stroll around like this? Let's explore first." The father and son bid farewell to Urjuang and immediately plunged into the market, casually wandering through the bustling crowd. "Well, that's about it. Dad, is Beijing City like this?" Chen Xiaobian had rarely left Guanling village in his life, and a bustling market like this was entirely new to him. His eyes couldn't take in everything. In reality, there wasn't much at rural markets. It was mostly various household farming tools and some small food stalls. But for Xiaobian, who hadn't seen much of the world, everything was so fresh. "Ha! Chunny." As Xiaobian walked and looked around, he suddenly spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It turned out to be Chunny, the daughter of the Liu family, who had brought her homegrown vegetables to the market to sell. "Chunny, Xiaobian, you're here at the market too." This delighted Chen Xiaobian, thinking that here he didn't have to worry about the judgmental eyes of the Liu family, and he could get closer to Chunny. "Chunny, I have something to take care of. I'll come find you later." But unexpectedly, this plan was thwarted by his own dad. "Dad, what are you looking for? I'm really hungry." "You just want to go find Chunny. Stop talking nonsense." Chen Xiaobian was quite unwilling, complaining while following his dad aimlessly. "Dad, I'm really hungry, not lying to you." After another 20 minutes of wandering, just when Xiaobian was getting impatient, Shen Lagu finally spotted his target and stopped in his tracks. "Old blind, still fooling people. With lines in the palm, you're destined to encounter mischief." Ignoring Xiaobian's protests, Chen Lagu turned and walked towards the fortune teller. "It sounds like an old dog. Oh, and it has puppies. Looks like I'll have some wine. All right, just reorient the bed, and everything will be fine." "Thank you, sir." The blind fortune teller's ears seemed to be in excellent working condition. He was dealing with an old lady seeking a fortune while striking up a conversation with Chen Lagu. "Enough with the nonsense. Tell me about the mountain opening." "Oh, my left eye was twitching this morning. That's a good sign." Chen Lagu seemed familiar with the blind fortune teller and didn't hesitate to sit down opposite him. They exchanged words that nobody else could understand. "You haven't opened a mountain in many years. Times are tough, but there's no other choice." To outsiders, the two seemed to be consulting the blind fortune teller, but both Chen Lagu and the blind man discreetly lowered their sleeves and brought their hands together. "How about it? Are you treating, or should I?" "Wow, you've got the goods. I'll treat. I'll treat." After a while, the blind fortune teller burst into laughter, seeming to know what they were talking about. "Boss, stir-fry 4 dishes and bring a bottle of baijiu." Liu, the blind man, led the way, and the three of them took numerous twists and turns until they reached a lively small restaurant in town. "Dad, shouldn't we discuss this kind of thing in a secluded place? Doing it openly like this raises suspicions." Xiaobian thought transactions like this should be discreet, just like on TV, in a secluded place with few people. But unexpectedly, they were openly conducting their business in such a lively place. Besides, it's not illegal. Let's not make a spectacle of ourselves. Actually, seasoned individuals knew that the more public the environment, the less likely something would go wrong. The saying goes, hide in plain sight. Plus, the items they were trading were unclaimed objects of nature, so it wasn't illegal. 1 white pill, 40 red yang needles. What's your offer? Chen Lagu ignored Chen Xiaobian and raised his glass to negotiate with Liu, the blind man. In this day and age, people who know their stuff are becoming scarce. Although these items are of good quality, I can't offer you the market price. But when it came to the price, Liu, the blind man, hung his head, pouring out his grievances. Nowadays, Western medicine is dominant. You're a reasonable man, but I still have to feed myself. I understand. Let's go with what you said, old blind. Chen Lagu also understood that this business was tough nowadays. Plus, They were familiar with each other, so there was no need for many words. He nodded in agreement. "Boss, bring a bowl of large meat noodles. The price is settled." Lu the blind man turned away and rummaged in his bag, while Chen Lagu called the waiter over to order an extra bowl of noodles for Xiaobian. "Good." Another bowl of large meat noodles. In this noisy restaurant, everyone was eating, chatting, and drinking. No one paid any attention to these inconspicuous three individuals. Chen Xiaobian sensibly lowered his head and ate his noodles, while Chen Lagu and Liu the blind man chatted and finished a whole bottle of baijiu. "You, old blind man, keep filling my bowl. No need to look for leftovers." After a 2-hour meal, Liu the blind man settled the bill. He didn't seem like a stingy person. "Mum, full now. How was it? Did you eat your fill? Look at your manners." While Xiaobian kept his head down and ate voraciously, he also noticed Chen Lagu passing a small cloth bundle from his sleeve to Liu the blind man. In return, Liu the blind man left a newspaper-wrapped item on the table. "Dad, how much did we get for it?" "I don't know. Didn't count." Chen Lagu stuffed the newspaper-wrapped item back into his sleeve and, with Xiaobian, left the restaurant. Remember that Liu the blind man isn't an ordinary person. You might need to know that someday. On their way back, Chen Lagu explained that Liu the blind man used to be a skilled hill walker in their trade, but lost his abilities during a treasure hunt. Hence, he turned to the business of collecting heads. In this trade, we rely on our ancestral spirits, and nobody plays tricks. Otherwise, it's over for us. Plus, he wouldn't dare to. According to the trade rules, middlemen like Chen Lagu could only earn double the estimated value of the item. If they sold it for more later, they would have to make up the difference for the hill walker. Everyone knew that hill walkers were risky individuals, and nobody dared to break the rules. "So, what did we sell today? It doesn't look like something valuable to me." Xiaobian had been curious about those two items all along, but there was always someone around, making it inconvenient to ask. Now, he couldn't resist asking. The deceased porcupine's body is called White Fairy's Molt. The white round object is called White Spirit Pill, and the porcupine needles are called Red Yang Needles. It turned out that these items cultivated by White Fairy were quite refined. Though not considered top treasures, they were still rare in the eyes of hill walkers. Chen Lagu explained that the White Spirit Pill was naturally of the utmost yang essence. When ground into powder and consumed, it could expel yin energy from people plagued by it or born with extreme yin constitution. It might not have the power to resurrect the dead, but it came close. As for the Red Yang Needles, they were beneficial for individuals who frequently dealt with yin energy in the field, because porcupines naturally consumed toxins and converted them into pure yang energy stored in their needles. We hill walkers traverse the realms of yin and yang, and these items are invaluable. You should learn more. They'll come in handy. Xiaobian was taken aback by this unexpected revelation. He knew his father was skilled in tomb robbing and exorcising evil spirits, but being called a hill walker was entirely new to him. What was his father's real background? Wow, so many. Dad, it's over 10,000 yuan. What's all the fuss? It's just 15,000 yuan. Look at your reaction. While 15,000 yuan might not be considered a fortune for most rural families, Xiaobian had lived frugally with his father for so many years that this was the first time he had ever seen so much money. He couldn't help but get excited. Dad, this is enough for us to live comfortably for a while. We can't keep it all. These days, the two of them had been worrying about their finances, and seeing so much money now made Xiaobian ecstatic. Why? Except for the White family's evil offspring, both the fox spirit and the night owl contributed to this. But hearing his father say that this money wasn't entirely theirs, Xiaobian was immediately taken aback. Dad, why don't you sell those porcupine needles too? We could make more. You understand nothing. We need to keep those for their usefulness. Don't let greed get the better of you. Chen Lagu explained that he would set aside some of the money to buy things that would benefit the fox spirit and the night owl. This was part of the rules, not being greedy for money. I understand the reasoning, but we've been so poor for so long. It's hard to let go. Xiaobian understood the logic, but the pain of having to give away the money they had just obtained was almost like cutting one's own flesh. After all, they had been living in poverty for so long, and it was hard to part with their newfound wealth. As they chatted leisurely, they suddenly heard a piercing cry outside the window. Both of them looked out the window and saw an owl perched on a tree branch in the courtyard. It was the same owl that had helped Chen Lagu defeat the white demon over a decade ago. They wondered why it had come here so late in the night. However, the owl didn't stay on the branch for long. After a couple of cries, it seemed to have given its greeting and then flew off towards the village. It looks like the red yang needles I kept will come in handy. Chen Lagu understood that someone in the village was likely facing trouble, and it might involve him once again. The owl continued its mournful cries while circling over the village. After a few rounds, it landed on a large tree outside a house at the western end of the village. This house belonged to none other than Yu Lao Sai. The man, Chen Lagu and Xiaobian, had met earlier in the day while fishing. What trouble had befallen his family? There's a saying that goes, the night owl doesn't enter a household for no reason. In the eyes of rural villagers, an owl's presence wasn't seen as an auspicious sign. What's wrong with your father? Go find your Uncle Chen to take a look. All right, I'll go now. The female ghost brought back. Speaking of the soul hook bird, the night owl perched on the big tree outside Yu Lao Sai's house. What will happen next at Yu Lao Sai's house? Wife, I'm back. Look at my catch today. Actually, Yu Lao Sai had just returned not long ago, and his mood today was extremely joyful. Grandpa, I want to see. All right, come and take a look. How many did you catch? You look so happy. Yu Lao Sai's family consisted of 3 people, himself, his wife, and their 5-year-old grandson. Their son worked in the city and had a good income. They also had an orchard, so life in the village was quite good. Indeed, around 10 of them. Oh, and they're all big catfish. Yu Lao Sai had no other hobbies aside from fishing, and today he had an exceptionally lucky catch. He filled a large bucket with catfish, which made him extremely happy. Wow! Finally, it's time to eat. I'm starving. All right, let's have a meal first. Since he returned home late today, his wife had already prepared the meal, and the fish were placed behind the door. The 3 of them prepared to eat together. Where did you go today? You came back so late. During the meal, his wife asked Yu Lao Sai where he had gone fishing and why he returned so late, as their grandson was starving. Don't mention it. I was so happy while fishing that I lost track of time. Yu Lao Sai took a sip of wine, then recounted the day's fishing trip to his wife. This morning, Yu Lao Sai rode his bike towards the Huangni River in the west of the village. On the way, he encountered Chen's father and son examining a large tree stump. After exchanging greetings, Yu Lao Sai headed for the riverbank. During this time, their orchard had just finished its first harvest of fruits, keeping Yu Lao Sai quite busy. It had been a while since he had gone fishing, so as soon as he dropped off his bicycle by the river, he hurried down to the riverbank. He expertly baited the hook with earthworms and sat there for the entire morning, but not a single fish bit. In truth, Yu Lao Sai had expected this because the economy had improved in recent years. Houses were being built everywhere, and there were more people than fish. So he took it as a test of patience. However, despite saying that, who among those who fish doesn't want a big catch, even if just for the thrill? While he was lost in his boredom, he suddenly heard a splashing sound nearby. Yu Lao Sai followed the sound and saw that not far away, at a slow bend in the river, Something was jumping out of the water and splashing back in, creating bursts of water. With his many years of experience, Yu Lao Sai knew that there must be big fish over there, either fighting for food or coming up for air. He quickly gathered his belongings and rushed to that bend in the river. Yu Lao Sai didn't have high hopes. Nowadays, the fish were clever. Even if you cast a line, you couldn't be sure of catching them. So, after casting his hook, he settled down on a rock and waited patiently. However, before Yu Lao Sai could even sit down properly, he suddenly felt the fishing rod shake, and the fish bobbed up and down. There was a fish on the hook, and it felt quite substantial. This made Yu Lao Sai ecstatic. As soon as he reeled in the line, he found a large, dark catfish about a foot long. He examined it closely and confirmed it was a big catfish. From the first catch onward, Yu Lao Sai didn't have a moment to sit down. Every now and then, a fish would bite. He was so thrilled that he baited and reeled in, losing track of time, and soon it was dark outside. Normally, these catfish stayed close to the muddy river and didn't gather in groups like this. Yu Lao Sai was enjoying himself immensely today. "All right, I'll make some braised catfish for you tomorrow." "Hey, why isn't Lil eating? What's wrong?" His wife couldn't do anything about Yu Lao Sai's temperament. She had just finished preparing her own meal when she noticed that their grandson, who had been complaining of hunger earlier, was now not eating and was staring at Yu Lao Sai with a frightened look in his eyes. "Lao Sai, what's wrong with you?" Following their grandson's gaze, his wife was also startled. Yu Lao Sai, who had been cheerful and carefree just moments ago, was now bowing his head, sobbing like a wrong daughter-in-law. Having been with Yu Lao Sai for a lifetime, she had never seen him like this before. Now, with tears in his eyes, he covered his mouth with his hands and fidgeted strangely, unable to express what was wrong. "Ah, what are you doing? Lao Sai, what's wrong?" His wife found it very strange. He had been perfectly fine just a while ago, so why was he suddenly crying? After asking a few questions and getting no response from Yu Lao Sai, she tried to reach out and touch him, but to her surprise, he immediately pulled away, shouting loudly in fear, his voice high-pitched and thin. "Don't touch me. Don't touch me. What are you doing?" This sudden reaction left his wife dumbfounded. She had extended her hand, but it hung in the air for a while without moving. By this time, Yu Lao Sai had curled up in a corner, clutching his head and trembling in fear. "Don't come any closer. Who are you people? Why are you treating me like this? I'm going to die so miserably." Yu Lao Sai, who was usually quick-tempered, had never acted so timid. He seemed to have turned into a girl, making everyone feel uneasy and unfamiliar. "He's been possessed. Let's go. We need to find Shen Grandpa." His wife was also getting on in years, and seeing him like this, she knew he must have been possessed. She grabbed their grandson and headed to find Shen Grandpa. "Auntie 4, no need to look. We, father and son, are here. Heroes always arrive in the nick of time. No need for chatter. Step aside." But to their surprise, Chen Grandpa had already known something was going to happen when he saw the soul hook bird waiting at their doorstep. He had just arrived at their house. "Old Chen, you're here. Great. Take a look at our Lao Sai. He's become like this." He was perfectly fine while eating, then suddenly. Ken Grandpa, an old acquaintance from the same village, was shocked upon seeing Yu Lao Sai in his current state. Nobody had ever seen Yu Lao Sai acting so timid. "Ah, who are you people? How frightening. Don't come closer. Don't come closer." At this point, Yu Lao Sai, upon seeing two strangers entering the room, shrunk against the wall in terror, screaming loudly. "No nonsense. Dad, my fourth uncle. Haha. He looks so adorable." Little Braid, seeing Yu Lao Sai's condition, struggled to hold back his laughter. But he was an old man, and now he looked so comical, behaving like a young girl. "What? Possessed. Lao Sai has been possessed. Where did he go today? Ken Grandpa, upon seeing this, had a pretty good idea. He turned to Yu Lao Sai's wife to find out where Yu Lao Sai had been today, trying to figure out the origin of what was now on Yu Lao Sai. I know. It's a female ghost. Grandpa, when you came back, I saw it. Before Auntie Four could say anything, their 5-year-old grandson, Leal, spoke up. Leal, tell Little Braid what you saw. I saw it when Grandpa came back. Chen Little Dog followed his father. He knew children's eyes were innocent, and maybe he had indeed seen something. He approached Leal and asked him for details. Has Grandpa come back yet? Not yet. Grandma was making dinner, and because I was hungry, I was watching the door from the window, waiting for Grandpa to come back for dinner. Grandpa's back. It was already quite dark outside when he finally saw Grandpa returning on his bicycle from outside. At first, Leal didn't notice anything different. However, when Grandpa came inside and began unloading his belongings, Leal suddenly noticed that there was a woman sitting behind Grandpa on the bike. Though young, Leal could tell that the woman didn't seem like a normal person. The woman was dripping wet, sitting lightly on the back seat, and her body appeared semi-transparent. She seemed to know that Leela was watching her, and even gave Leal a creepy smile. Wife, I'm back. Meanwhile, Grandpa was busy unpacking his catch, seemingly completely unaware that the woman was closely following him. Wife, come take a look at my catch today. As Grandpa entered the house, Leal looked again at Grandpa's back and noticed that the woman had disappeared. I caught so many today. But at that moment, Leal felt that Grandpa was acting a bit differently from usual. It was as if there was another person's shadow on him. Could it be this old man did something wrong and attracted this spirit to him? Fourth sister-in-law, what are you thinking about? Fourth sister-in-law, hearing Leal's account and sensing his sincerity, immediately became cautious. We haven't eaten yet, and it's right outside. Where did Lao Sai put the fish he caught? You haven't eaten yet. Chen Grandpa, hearing Leal's description of the watery woman, and knowing that Yu Lao Sai had gone fishing today, had a pretty good idea of what was happening. That's right. No wonder she attached herself to Lao Sai. Indeed, when they saw the full bucket of catfish, Chen Grandpa fully understood the situation. However, Little Braid, standing by, didn't understand anything. To him, this bucket of big catfish looked just a bit bigger and fatter, nothing particularly special. The whiskers on these catfish are sharp and dark red, shining. They just feasted on human flesh. Ate human flesh. Ken Grandpa, having deduced that these catfish had consumed human flesh, speculated that there might be a dead body, likely a young woman, in the river section where Yu Lao Sai had been fishing. All right, you go control your fourth uncle and help him recover. I'm afraid that if I touch him, he'll scream as if someone is harming him. The top priority now was to heal Yu Lao Sai, who had been possessed. Big sister, I'm known as the handsome guy in Guanling village. Let's chat. However, Little Braid, not wanting to harm anyone, approached Yu Lao Sai gently, utilizing his flirting skills to speak softly and coaxingly, pulling Yu Lao Sai's hand up slowly. You brat, you've got some skills. What are you? Dad, I've sacrificed my good looks. After grabbing Yu Lao Sai, Little Braid swiftly moved behind him and controlled him. Hold him down. At this point, Chen Grandpa took out a slender bamboo tube from his sleeve, opened the cap, and removed a red sun needle he had kept for the day. What are you doing? Don't touch me. If you had left earlier, you wouldn't have suffered so much. Chen Grandpa, having Little Braid firmly restrain Yu Lao Sai, approached Yu Lao Sai and grabbed one of his hands. Although Chen Grandpa was older, his hands were strong as a pair of pliers, making it impossible for Yu Lao Sai to struggle. He then pierced the red sun needle into Yu Lao Sai's middle finger. After exclaiming that it hurt a bit, Chen Grandpa applied some force with his left hand, and the red sun needle penetrated Yu Lao Sai's middle finger. All right, release him. Although the red sun needle didn't go in too deep, merely breaking the skin, Yu Lao Sai screamed as if it were excruciatingly painful. Chen Grandpa knew the red sun needle was working. He had little braid release Yu Lao Sai, who was now writhing in agony. Leave now. Otherwise, if I push it a bit deeper, your soul will scatter. Despite his body's convulsions and tremors, the red sun needle remained firmly embedded. After a while, whether out of fear from Chen Grandpa's words or an inability to bear the red sun needle's yang energy, Yu Lao Sai's body suddenly shook violently. It was as if something had been forcibly pulled away from him, and his appearance immediately changed. Suddenly, Yu Lao Sai's body jerked intensely, as if something had been forcibly removed from him. His appearance took on a different demeanor. Fourth uncle, although the female ghost has left, your charm remains. With the departure of the female ghost from Yu Lao Sai's body, he regained his senses. However, his body, which had been stiff for some time, still maintained a peculiar posture. At this point, Little Braid's remark made Chen Grandpa burst into laughter. Which bastard pricked me? Bold man, if it weren't for you, you'd be finished. Just as Yu Lao Sai's consciousness was returning, the night owl, the soul-reaping spirit, flew away with a flap of its wings. It seemed it wasn't waiting for Yu Lao Sai's death, but for the female ghosts. That's a wronged girl who died. Take care of her on the way. Hearing the night owl flapping its wings and flying away, Chen Grandpa muttered something while looking out of the window. Traditionally, the night owl is a spirit creature that guides departed souls to the afterlife. Old Chen, I'm deeply grateful to you. Thank you. Are you all right now, old man? Yu Lao Sai, who had regained consciousness, thanked Chen and his son profusely. Burn the talisman I gave you, mix the ashes with clear water, and drink it. You'll be fine. Thank you so much, old Chen. You can take these fish back to eat. Yu Lao Sai and his family expressed their gratitude and sent Chen and his son away. To show his appreciation, Yu Lao Sai insisted that Chen take some fish home to eat. Don't eat those fish. Dry them in the sun after daybreak, and then throw them away. That should be safe. Chen and his son dared not eat those fish. Turning around, they advised Yu Lao Sai once more. Enough about the fish. You're not allowed to go fishing anymore. But Dad, can I go fishing in a fish pond in the future? Dad, this business deal is a big loss. We traded such expensive red sun needles for a basket of eggs. Chen's son couldn't help but complain. Since he learned that the porcupine needles were valuable, he felt like he was losing out no matter how he calculated it. No wonder our family is poor. I've never seen anyone so bad at doing business. Chen Grandpa understood his son's character and let him grumble on his own without responding. What? We're out of eggs too. Then aren't we even at a bigger loss? Hey, where are we going? We'll need these eggs soon. You can't catch food. But as they reached the center of the village, Chen Grandpa suddenly changed direction, leaving his son puzzled. We're going to the river to handle that girl's body. We can't let her pollute the river where many people rely on for their meals. Do we have to take care of this too? No one's paying us. You're always thinking about money. You're obsessed with it. Without money, I can't marry Chunny. Her family won't agree unless they see I'm handsome and willing to spend.